I would very much like to introduce Ms. Leonidas Paschalides, General Secretary of the Chamber of Commerce, Deputy Secretary General of the Cyprus Chamber of Commerce, that is very much aware of the Brexit negotiations from the Cyprus side, and he can give us his first reaction as to what we have heard from Professor Bovis, his experience with the Cyprus partners that are to be involved in the Cyprus takeover from what has been agreed until now, and what he's feeling about the Brexit agreement and the trade, commercial trade exchanges we have with the UK, and that are so crucial to us, our halloumi instead of fish. So I know that there is very short time for you to express yourself on all this, but pick what you think more appealing. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleni. I am aware that Chris was the keynote speaker, so I understand I've got about 10 minutes, and I should keep to that, I think. Now, you said that in your introduction, you said that the chamber was a key factor in the negotiations. I have to set the record straight. It wasn't really. I mean, what we did as a Chamber of Commerce was that we had several meetings, joint meetings with sectoral representative organizations. For example, Kyriakos says the accountants were participating, the travel agents in those meetings, even the halloumi producers. And we had exchange of views, if you like, with the Foreign Ministry of the Republic, the team that was responsible for Brexit. And they were liaising with the EU negotiator. Up until the very, very last minute, we thought that there was going to be a no-deal Brexit. So, I mean, we shouldn't be confusing, of course, terminologies, because Brexit happened already at the end of January 2020. So since that and until the end of last year, we had the transition period. And during the transition period, negotiations, as you know, have started to see whether an agreement could be reached about the future relationship between the UK and the EU. Chris is very right. I agree with him. Lots of valuable time was lost. Okay, maybe the pandemic was to blame for it as well, partly. But then they started negotiating, giving emphasis on issues that, for the life of me, I cannot understand that they had so much importance to occupy them for so much time. And fisheries is one of these examples. Now, so we believed that there was going to be no agreement, and that the UK would have been a proper, if I can use this word, third country. And that's how we started preparing our businesses. And then on Christmas Eve, we were informed that there was an agreement. The TCA, which is a text of 1,255 pages long, and all of us had to sort of try and understand what is going on. even let me before I continue, I want all of us and your students to give specific attention to the name of the agreement: Trade and Cooperation Agreement. So the agreement is primarily about trade, and all the other issues, cooperation. And there are many, many ambiguities as far as cooperation is concerned. Services and specifically financial services are really not dealt by the agreement. They were left out of the agreement. The agreement talks a lot about trade in goods. And even in that case, it's not so simple as somebody might have thought of. And we did have a lot of queries by our members because yes, there are no tariffs and no quotas, but there are rules of origin that needs to be preserved. So you may find out that a product that comes from the UK, and up to now, all of us thought, it's a UK product. It didn't really matter when the UK was a member of the European Union. You may well find out now that it's not, and therefore duties will be charged.
And we need extra infrastructure, and we seek for extra infrastructure to monitor this process.
Yes. I mean, just to give one example, there are rules of origin for every single product. It's all in the agreement. If you know the HS code of your product, you can look it up and see what the rules of origin are. But take, for example, cars, motor vehicles that are manufactured in the UK. For the car, the motor vehicle, to comply with the rules of origin and be considered as British, and therefore no duties will be charged, it means that at least 55% of its content need to come from the UK or the European Union. Now, if it's not like that, then it's not covered by the rules of origin. And of course, duties will be charged. And we had a lot of problems with our members that they found out that overnight they started being charged with duties. And not to mention the fact that certificates are now needed, health certificates, phytosanitary certificates, and so on and so forth. There is also one more danger in my mind. When the UK starts deviating, if they do that, of course, I don't know, but this is what Boris Johnson had promised to the British people, that they will create their own standards. Now, up until now, they didn't have time yet, so they're using the EU standards, basically. Now, if they start deviating from those, then one will realize what is going to happen at customs. When they will need to check whether the standards are observed, and so on and so forth. Delays, rejection maybe of products, and so on and so forth. Now, I just made this small introduction because today's session is not about products, but the agreement is about products, basically. Now, when we come to the services sector, as I said, the provision of services is now, not to say prohibited, but extremely limited now. The UK is a third country as far as that is concerned. British companies have lost their passporting rights. So strictly speaking, they cannot provide services in the European Union. The only way they can do it if they establish themselves in an EU member state. And then again, if they do that as a third country, of course, then they have to respect the regulations of the specific member state. As you know, Cyprus, we do register companies that say they are of Saudi Arabian interests, if you like.
Mhm.
All right?
Yeah,
But
but
that's
they
the
are
decision of the
free.
Republic of Cyprus.
Yes.
And of course, coupled with that is residence as well. I mean, if you come from a third country, residence is not automatic. You need to apply to the Council of Ministers and they need to approve or not, if you like. Now, coupled with that is the issue of the qualifications. I do not want to elaborate on this because Chris has elaborated a lot, and I'm sure both Kyriakos from ICPAC and also Laris Vrahimis from the
Legal Council.
From the law society, the law,
Legal
yes, the
counsel.
legal profession, yes, they will elaborate on their specific cases. Yes, the situation is a little bit better for lawyers compared to all the other professionals. And I don't know, no offense, Mr. Rahimis, I didn't understand why why that if you like differentiation was made, even though I mean, I need to be honest, lawyers are not entirely free to act as they did before, but I'm sure Mr. Rahimis will explain all this to you. Now, as far as financial services, I believe that the UK has committed suicide. Financial services is very, very important from the UK, for the UK. I was reading some statistics the other day, and I found out that 10% of the taxes in the UK, they come from financial services. And about 40% of these services are sold or provided, if you like, to the EU member states. Now, the agreement does not provide anything really for financial services. There are some promises, but promises are promises. For example, the TCA, the agreement says that they should discuss at the level of the Partnership Council the issue of equivalence, not automatic rights of provision, but equivalence of services. Now, to my mind, this is not an easy issue. Because for equivalence to exist, and that's how I understand it, it means that the UK has to give specific promises that they will not deviate from the regulations in the EU. So will they do that? I'm not sure, and I don't know. Will the EU be willing to give them that equivalence? In addition, the agreement provides that a memorandum of understanding will be agreed as far as financial services that will set the scene, if you like, for all the others by the beginning of March. Now we are at the end of February and nothing has happened. My personal view is that no, it will not be signed by the beginning of March. There is no time for that. So you see, what the European Union has proposed to the British was something that they have never done before. I mean, they told them, you know, if they could, I'm making it very simple for your students to understand as well. If they're willing to continue to be part of the single market, the EU was willing to give them that, if you like. But the British said no. Now, if you say no, then definitely all sorts of problems start to be created. And of course, we have the problems now. Now, as far as academic, you know, I'm finishing in 2 minutes, Eleni, I don't want to take up your time. As far as academic qualifications are concerned, I think the situation is much better, or is easier, if you like, when compared to professional qualifications. Because in most of the cases, academic qualifications are not directly linked to the exercise of a profession, if you like. And I mean, just to give you an example, if you have a degree, say, in management or in business, all right, then if you intend to work in the private sector, you do not need to have that degree validated by anybody. I mean, if a private company thinks that, okay, your master's from Timbuktu is okay, they will hire you. Now, if you want to work now for the public sector or the wider public sector, that they have their own regulations and so on and so forth, then yes, you need to go to GISATS, the national academic recognition body. I think their director is part of our panel. Yeah, so that he's going to explain all these things to you, but you may need to go to GISATS as well, even if you have academic qualifications from an EU member state institution. We should not forget that. I mean, of course, it's easier if it's from the EU, but it's more difficult if it is from a third country, for example. But say one degree that you will need to go to GISATS anyway, because you will need to be given the license later on, is to practice, is the, how do you say, the teaching degrees, pedagogical, you know, all these things. So professional qualifications, yes, it's difficult. Now, I am going to, I would also differentiate my position a little bit from Chris, with all due respect, in the sense that it's the Partnership Council that will decide at the end of the day. I don't think that there is much scope for bilateral agreements. And of course, the speakers later on, they can give their views and opinions on that one. And that makes the situation even much more difficult, if you like. Chris has said something very important, and it's a British saying that the British should have known about it. You cannot have your cake and eat it. So you cannot have the best of both worlds. And finishing, Eleni, I attended very recently a webinar where Michel Barnier was the speaker, who is an excellent speaker, the EU negotiator, if you like, in relation to the Brexit, to the TCA, and so on and so forth. And you know, a lot of questions were raised, and most of them by the British companies. It was really it had to do with business. And he said to them, with all due respect to my British friends, what they should understand is that Brexit is Brexit. So I am not very optimistic myself that things will go the way that many professions prefer that they would go that way. Because you did ask me, Eleni, and I don't want to come back later on. I might have to leave before 6 as well. You told me, what would we suggest for Cyprus, if you like, under all this mess that we are in now? Okay, Cyprus could be, and this is where our chamber concentrates its efforts, to be a place of establishment of, in this case, British companies, in which case, if they do get established in Cyprus, they will be considered as Cypriot companies, EU companies, and then the passporting will be there. For financial services, I don't want to disappoint my friends. I have always been honest and very straightforward, with perhaps the exception of investment funds, where we have a very good regime. I'm sure Andreas can vouch for it. All the others, somehow I don't think that Cyprus can attract any major part of the cake. There are other countries which are closer to the UK. I can mention Ireland, Amsterdam, Paris, Luxembourg, and already the statistics show that there is movement to those countries, if you like. Secondly, I think that we need to invest in education here in Cyprus more and more, and attract more foreign students and Cypriots as well, because one consequence of Brexit is that the tuition fees for the British universities are no longer the same. So I think that many will decide to continue their studies in Cyprus. We need, of course, to have quality, very high standards, and of course, fees that, well, are affordable anyway. Slowly, we also need, and I know because I'm talking to Kyriakos from ICPAC a lot since the TCA, the professional bodies need those that are linked to British professional qualifications. They need to start detaching themselves slowly from those bodies and qualifications. And so how is it going to go at the end of the day? This is my last word.
Okay.
And
I'm
it
not
will be
pretty
really
sure that Laris Vrahimis, Mr. Vrahimis,
yes,
will follow you on that.
Yeah, it will be really ironic.
We come back to it.
Eleni, it will be really ironic if the UK is outside the single market and in practice applies the rules of the single market.
This is true.
So that it doesn't get completely isolated. So thank you very much. I don't want to take more of your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.